You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon Payne.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Canada rowing Olympian, Sydney Payne. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in competing in professional rowing?
I ended up finding rowing as kind of an accident. I was a ski racer and I needed an off-season sport for skiing in the summer when there's no snow. And I ended up finding my mom found rowing and thought it would be interesting and kind of tricked my best friend and I into trying it. And then we quite enjoyed it and continued on. And eventually, between grade 11 and grade 12, I decided to switch from my main sport being skiing to my main sport being rowing. And then from there, I just kind of took every opportunity along the way to further my rowing and climbed up through the ladder of Rowing Canada from a junior all the way to being an Olympian and competing for Canada.
What was that experience like in college, going to Cal and getting to compete in rowing?
It was incredible, and I owe a lot of my where I am athletically to that because I didn't know that I wanted to go to the US for university. I kind of wanted to stay in Canada, and my mom convinced me again to go and look at the US system and go down to an NCAA school and just take an official visit and see what it was like. And I realized how amazing an opportunity it was and what a fantastic setup for academically and athletically it was going to be for myself. And so I had the privilege of going to Cal and competing for them and being a Golden Bear, and atmosphere of getting to train for 4 years with a team of 60-ish girls. It was amazing. It was like nothing else. Academically, it was fantastic, and athletically, I grew so much as a person and an athlete there. It really shaped my rowing career and helped me get to the national team and beyond.
What was that transition like from you in college, going from being in Canada to coming to the US to compete collegiately?
It was quite fun because I'd come from an individual sport skiing on a small team and then going to high school. We had a larger team for Canada, but there was maybe 30 girls, 20 girls, and there were really only like 5 or 6 of us that really trained hard in university and were there for every session and wanted more. And so when I went down to the US and got to compete on a team of 40 to 60 girls at any point in the year, it was amazing. That just the atmosphere and the environment that it was able to create, the push from the bottom. You always had someone that was hungry for your seat and someone that was excited to go hard on this session. And you couldn't take a minute for granted because every day someone was going to have a better day than you, or you had to always be on and be hungry and want more. And it was an amazing experience. It was so much fun to be in a group of girls that wanted it so badly for each other and for themselves. And uh, it was so much fun to come from an individual sport to then be on such a big team that was so excited to go fast and to work hard.
How was that experience like in your freshman year going to the NCAA tournament?
It was quite fun. I wasn't actually supposed to go. I had been injured most of my freshman year because I was silly and I rolled my ankle quite badly on the first day of school, but it turns out I'd also actually broke my foot, but I didn't realize that for a year. And so I'd been on and off the water all year for an injured foot and it being sore. But anyways, heading into NCAAs and Pac-12s, I was off the water and my coach tried to convince me to redshirt the year, but I was like, no, I really want to race. I think I can race. I think I can do this. So I convinced him to let me seat race into the boat and give it a go. And so I did, and seat raced into the 2V or second varsity and got to race Pac-12s, and I think we won. And then we got to go to NCAA's, which was in our sort of home course where we raced most of the season in Sacramento, Lake Natoma. And so then I got to race NCAA's my freshman year in the 2V at our sort of home course. And it was so amazing and so exciting. And it was just the cherry on top of my freshman year where I didn't think that any of this was going to happen. And in the last month or so of school, we kind of pulled it together and I got out there on the water and got to race and got to compete for Cal.
Of course, coming out off of an injury in your freshman year, what was that experience like for you to bring back that gold medal in that NCAA championships?
It was amazing. It was so wonderful. And what made winning it more special meant that we won as a team. And so I think we won the 4 and we won the 2V, and then our varsity came second. And so if any of those boats had come any spot lower, we wouldn't have won. And so winning was wonderful, but really winning as the team was the biggest thing, and getting to take home the team trophy and bring it back to the girls that weren't competing at NCAA's, that meant the most. And to do that as a freshman, to be able to give that to the team and contribute to that was so special and so exciting, and it fueled the next 3 years.
What was that feeling like for you to make the Canada national team for rowing while in college?
It was hectic and exciting and crazy. And the first year that I made it in 2018, I didn't know I was trying out for the senior team. I'd gone in thinking I was just trying out for the U23 team, and our head coach asked a few of us to also try out for the senior team, just to give it a go. And so I ended up making it, and it was an incredible whirlwind. And it took me a minute to realize, because as soon as we'd made it, I found out that I was going and was in the boat, I had 2 days to then pack and leave for World Cups, because I thought I was trying out for the under 23 team and I was going to be there training for a month before we went to U23s. But that year I ended up getting to compete on both the under 23 team and the senior team during the summer. And it was the most hectic and amazing summer, because I just went from one race to the next race to the next race. And I ended the school year with NCAA's, flew up, tried out for the teams, left for World Cups on the senior team for the first time. And that experience was amazing and wonderful. And I think it didn't really set in for a while for me that I got to do that, because there was so much on the go. And then as soon as I was done with that team, I flew directly to under 23s and met the team over there, and then came home, trained for a little bit, and then flew back over to race the senior worlds, which was an amazing experience. And it was so much fun to get to race that much in a summer in a sport like rowing, where we don't often have a lot of races. For the senior team, we usually only race. There are 3 World Cups and a World Championships that are like the events that are hosted for us. And being from North America, we can't afford to go over for the entire World Cup season for all 3 of them. So we usually go over for 2 of them, fly home, and then fly back over for World Champs. And so this year I got to compete in way more races than I normally did. And so it was so much fun and one of my favorite summers, but it was incredibly hectic.
What was that experience like in 2018 and 2019, getting to compete in the World Championship?
It was amazing. In 2018, it was my first World Championship for the senior team, and it was such a wonderful time. And then in 2019, I got to compete in the 4 and qualify for the Olympics. And in 2019, our World Championships, or the year before the Olympics, our World Championships are always our Olympic qualifiers. And so in 2019, I was in the 4, and we ended up getting to qualify all 3 sweep boats that were available for us. So the women's pair, the women's 4, and the women's 8. And I think we were one of 3 or 4 countries that were able to qualify all 3 boats. And so that was a huge success, and I was so proud of that. And that was the goal, was to qualify all 3. And I was in the 4, which was at that year was the bottom ranked boat that we'd prioritized. And we ended up squeaking in with the last qualifying spot. And so it felt like we'd won the Olympics right there and then, being able to qualify all 3 boats. And we knew that meant we had the most seats possible for our team going to the Olympics next year, which ended up being delayed, but that's okay.
What was that feeling like for you to qualify to make it to the Olympics and knowing that you were going to be at the biggest stage?
It was amazing. I think that year we didn't we obviously don't know who was going to be in the boats going to the Olympics. You just qualify the seats, not the people. But knowing that we had qualified the pair, the 4 and the 8, knew that I had given myself the biggest opportunity to be able to be in a boat going, because we had the most seats available that we could. So going into that year, it was literally a dream come true to be able to try out and to try and compete at the Olympics. My childhood dream.
Leading into the Olympics, what was that training like preparing for Tokyo and going to the Olympics?
It was incredibly hard, like everyone will say that. And it was really fun because we had such a great group of girls and we had a lot of immense competition amongst us. So the field was deep and we were trying to push each other, and everybody was going fast. And so seat racing and selection was incredibly hard and went on for a long time because everybody was so close and it was hard to create a boat. And so that was kind of the best scenario that we could possibly have heading into the Olympics, was to have this intense training group that was so close and pushing each other so much that it was hard to create a boat. But the fun and incredibly hard training we did for Tokyo, which lots of other athletes had to do as well, was heat training, because we knew that the Tokyo Olympics was going to be incredibly hot. And so we did lots of heat training where we would monitor ourselves in, we rented out a hot yoga studio to train in. So we could crank up the temperature to about 40 degrees and the humidity as high as it would go. And we would practice training and going through our race warm-ups and to see how we would manage the heat mentally and physically, and how we could adapt to it and monitor ourselves and know how to keep ourselves in the best place mentally and physically heading into racing in the heat. And that was an incredibly cool experience. I learned a lot about myself, and that a lot of myself, physically, I do fine in the heat, but mentally, I absolutely hate it.
Of
So
course, having that childhood dream of making it to the Olympics, what was that feeling like when you did make it and you were in Tokyo competing?
it didn't really hit that I was at the Olympics until we were racing our heat, which is a terrible time to have your Olympic moment where you realize that you're actually there competing at the Olympics and you've made it, you've done it. But I remember we were about 500 meters into our 2 kilometer race, and I had this moment of, oh my gosh, this is actually happening, where I am racing in the Olympics. And I had to scold myself a little, be like, steady focus, come on, pull it together. You're in the middle of the race. Now is not the time. But realizing that I'd made it and I was there, and we were actually competing in the games that we thought for a little while might not actually happen. So that was also another incredibly great moment of this all coming together and getting to compete for Canada and be at the Olympics, and in the middle of COVID and all of that. I was so proud and so honored to be there.
What are some of the similarities and differences between competing in the four-woman boat versus an 8-woman boat?
The 4 is probably my favorite boat class to race, because you have the speed. It's one of the faster boats. Well, it's faster than the women's pair. Those are the 3 boats I have that I can race because I'm a women's sweep athlete. And so it's got a little bit more speed than the pair, but it's got a little bit more technical and finesse than the 8. The 8 is a little bit more power, and you've got 8 girls to coordinate, and it's kind of difficult. It's more difficult to get 8 athletes in a coxswain on the same page, technically, mentally, physically, and it's a little bit easier, I find, in the 4 to coordinate those things. And so you've got a little bit more ability to have a little bit more technical aspect, and it doesn't always make sense. The combinations that work in the 4, they're kind of magical, and it's lots of fun to race that boat because of that. And you never know what's going to work and what's not going to work and how it's going to happen. And so a 4 is a little bit more unpredictable and a little bit faster, or a little bit more technical, versus the 8 is a little bit faster and a little bit more powerful. They're both incredibly fun events to get to race, because obviously I love them both because I race them.
While on the water at the Olympics, what was that like, getting to compete against those different countries like US and other countries?
When I went to school at Cal, I had the opportunity to train and race against a lot of other international athletes. And when we would have our summer break, a bunch of us would race I would have teammates on the German team, the British team, the American team, the Canadian team. And so actually, when I went to the Olympics, I think there were 12 Cal graduates there, maybe more. I can't remember. There was a good amount of us. that I had gone to school with on the men's and women's teams for different countries that were competing at the Tokyo Games alongside myself. And so getting to see them on and off the water and get to cheer them on in their events, that was amazing. And it's always really fun to compete against other countries on the start line, but it adds a little cherry on top for myself that I get to see my classmates and teammates and get to see them have success in their countries and their boat classes.
Of course, as a rowing athlete, what is that experience like, getting to see those different teammates that you went to school with at Cal representing other countries?
It's heartwarming and amazing, and it's also so much fun because every time I go to an event, a World Cup or a World Championships, I get to run into some of my teammates. And what are the chances that you're going to get? It's easier to see your friends that overseas at these World Cup races than it is anytime we go back to the Bay Area or something like that. And some of my teammates that aren't rowing anymore, that are over in Europe now, sometimes get to come to those World Cups and see us. And so they get to see our success and we get to see them, and I get to cheer all my friends on. And it's so fun and so exciting. And it's a bond that I'm so proud and happy to have from my time at Cal.
What were some of your favorite memories and moments competing in Tokyo?
One of the funny moments was that there was a typhoon that was supposed to come through in the middle of our week of competing. So we had to rearrange the schedule for a typhoon because that would not have been helpful for rowing on the water in the windstorm. And so that was quite interesting. But on the day of our final, there was actually a thunderstorm, and we'd seen it on the radar. There was the chance of it happening, but there were no thunder or lightning. And the women's 8 was, I believe, the second to last event. I think it went the women's 8 and then the men's single, and that was the end of the rowing for the Olympics. And so we were the second to last event to push off the dock and start the warm-up cycle. And as soon as we got in the boat and we shoved off the dock and we're waving goodbye to our coach, there was a bunch of thunder that started happening. And we were like, oh no, we're a water sport. So obviously anytime there's thunder and lightning, they usually cancel and pull everybody off the water because of safety. And so we shoved off and we were all like, are we racing? Are we not? Do we need to come back in? What's happening? And there were a bunch of other women's 8s around us, and we were all like, what do we do? Do we keep rowing? And everyone was like, just keep going. If they tell you to stop, stop, but just act as if it's not happening. And so I guess the storm was deemed far enough away that we could keep going, but there was still thunder happening throughout our warm-up. And it was kind of eerie and special and wonderful as you're rowing along and you're warming up for this event. And there's all this emotion and stress and excitement. And there's this rumbling thunder in the background. It's ominous, but also exciting to create that environment. And we had also sadly, we had lost a supporter and a previous teammate or a alumni to Rowing Canada a year prior. And we had said that it was Kathleen that was cheering us on, was the Thunder, and that was her support. And she had won gold in the Barcelona Olympics. And that it was her support and her cheering us on heading into the start gates with the thunder rumbling. And so we used it as our motivation and our little special extra boost to get us down to the start line and off the line fast.
While at the Olympics, what was that Mama I Made It moment like for you?
Well, I think I had two. The one in the middle of the heat, when I realized that this was real, this was happening. I was in a race at the Olympics, and I was completely in awe that it was happening and that I was here and that I was even allowed to be in the village, let alone racing for Canada and living out my dream. And then the next time was when I got to FaceTime my parents after we got our medals, because obviously no family or friends were allowed to be at the Olympics because of COVID. So sadly, I had to FaceTime them on the bus from the venue back to the village after we had won, and I got to show them my medal and talk to them for a few minutes. And it was so wonderful. I think I cried. And it was so special to be able to share it with them. And it was kind of sad that they weren't physically there, but it was an amazing moment. So exciting.
How does it feel to be known as an Olympian and have OLY behind your last name?
It's incredibly special to be a part of that Olympic community. And the community of Olympians and the network that that creates. And to put the OLY behind our name is something that's incredibly cool and special that's just recently started to become a thing. And I am very honored to get to have that behind my name and to join the group of other Olympians that get to represent the community that we have and the network that's created.
What was that feeling like for you to get to put around that neck medal and know that all of your hard work paid off in the Olympics?
It was very special. And because it was the COVID Olympics, they were trying to limit the amount of interaction with other people. So our teammate actually got to put our medal, so our coxswain got to put the medal on everybody's neck and give us a hug. And so that almost made it even more special that we got to put our medals on each other and congratulate each other and for the hard work that we'd all done together and the work that we'd put in together. And it was very special and the medals were very heavy and it was kind of shocking. And I think that was a good thing. It shocked you into realizing that the weight of the accomplishment that you had just done. Yeah.
After receiving the OLY behind your last name, what is that like getting to sign autographs and meeting fans and signing OLY?
It is very special and amazing and not something that I think will ever be taken lightly by anyone that gets to have it there. And yeah, getting to add the OLY to your name is incredibly special and meaningful and a great honor.
Of course, a few months after the Olympics, what was that feeling like receiving your Olympic ring and putting it on to remember those Olympic memories that you had?
It's great. And it's an amazing piece of jewelry to have and to be able to wear all the time because your Olympic medal is not exactly something you can leave the house with all the time and wear around. But getting the Olympic ring is something that is a more daily thing. Not that we wear it daily, but it's a more everyday way of getting to honor that excitement and achievement that we've created and that we had. And so it's a more tangible and daily item that gets to be incorporated into our lives that
What is
has
that
such
as-
significance.
What is that experience like getting to race with some of your teammates, like Kristen Rapper, like Madison Maley, and Suzanne?
They're incredibly gifted athletes and amazing people. And so getting to compete with them and getting to have been or having been on the team with them for a couple of years and seeing the success for them as well as like for our whole group was amazing and such an honor to have been teammates with them and to get to have sat on the start line with them so many times and knew that they were backing me and I was backing them. And having full faith in that is the most wonderful feeling as an athlete, getting to know that your teammates are going to go every stroke with each other and for each other.
Who are some of the people that you look up to in the rowing community that are not your teammates?
For our boat, heading into the Olympics, our coach Michelle Darville had a great idea because we were in COVID and we wouldn't get to race for 2 years before heading into the Olympics. But where our training center is in Victoria, a bunch of Rowing Canada alums still live in the area. And so she was able to contact a bunch of them and get them to all come in and share their own Olympic stories and talk about what it was like being in the venue, what it was like living in the village, what it was like competing, after competing, share a bunch of their stories and a bunch of their wisdom to help us head into the Olympics without getting to race, without getting to do a bunch of that normal preparation. And so for us, I think we looked up to all of the Rowing Canada alum and all of the people that had come through the program before us. And we got a lot of wisdom and a lot of help from them through the journey leading up to it. And so that they could help us through the 2 weeks that we were in the village and the week of racing. And Marnie McBean, a Canadian rowing alumni, also was our chef de mission for the Olympics. So she was over there in the venue with us. And so she was able to cheer us on and support us in person. And that was extra special because she was a rowing athlete, an amazing athlete for Canada with many accomplishments. She had talked to us many times throughout the year about her experience and her time on the team and racing and what it was like in the village and the venue and racing and all of this. And so she got to be there supporting us there. And so she was someone as well that we looked up to.
Who are some of the influential people in your career that have shaped you into the rower that you are today?
As cheesy as this sounds, all of my teammates and coaches along the way, all of my teammates at Cal, coaches in high school and middle school and elementary school and everyone along the way that has helped foster my love of sports and competition. And probably everybody that I encountered along my way on different teams, going probably back to rec soccer as a little kid, and everybody that encouraged me to keep trying and to keep going on to another sport, and encouraging my love of competition and never giving up. And even if it wasn't going my way, just because I loved it was reason enough to keep trying and to keep going in the sport. And so I think every single teammate and every single coach I've had is why I am the person I am. I don't think there's any coach that did more for me than the other.
What was that feeling like getting to live out your Olympic dream?
I don't know that it will ever fully sink in and really feel 100% real that I didn't only just get to go to the Olympics, but that we also won. And part of me thinks that will really hit in when I retire from the sport, because how I see it is that was great. I won. Congratulations, go me. But we're moving on. We're doing it again. We're competing again. We're going to try and make it to the Olympics again, and we're going to try and win again. So I don't know that it's fully set in for me, but it's an incredibly great honor, and I'm so proud of my teammates and my coaches and everybody that was there for that process and that success and victory. And I'm so proud of having that experience and so honored to get to do that for Canada. But I think it's not entirely set in yet because I'm not done. I want to do it again.
What are some of your future plans in your rowing career moving forward?
Well, I've got one more year of competing left that I know of from heading in. We just had our qualifiers a week ago in Serbia, and we qualified the women's 8. So I have one more year of training before hopefully being in the boat for Canada again to go to the 2024 Olympics in Paris. And that is my goal, to get in that boat and to help it be the best it can be and hopefully have the best race on that day of the final. And I hope that's gold.
Of course, what will that feeling feel like to make that Paris Olympic team?
It will be hopefully and probably as amazing as it was to get the honor to be on the Tokyo team. And so I think just the honor to represent Canada and to go to the Olympics for Canada and race at the Olympic Games is the biggest honor that I could get in the sport, and the greatest feeling that I could have. And then getting to capitalize on that opportunity and have my best race on the final is anything any athlete could dream of. It's the best thing.
What advice would you give those athletes out there that are looking to compete on the college level of rowing?
I would give them the advice of take every opportunity you can, any opportunity to further yourself as a person, as an athlete, as a student, and explore everything. Keep your options open, and stuff will appear, and you will just take every opportunity you can. Don't be afraid of pushing yourself and taking a risk.
What advice would you give those college rowers out there that are looking to compete for the Olympics and represent their country?
The exact same advice. I would say the same thing. Use your teammates at school to push you and to get further in rowing and to become the best athlete you can, and keep trying on the national team. I didn't make it the first time I tried out for the U23 team, and then I made it the next year, and then I just kept trying out and climbing the ladder, and then I got the opportunity to try out for the senior team, so I took that, and I got the opportunity to try out for the Olympic team, and I took that, and just keep looking and putting yourself out there on the rowing teams, and hopefully it'll work out.
What advice would you give those first-time Olympians looking to represent their country, whether it's Team USA or Canada?
Just know that everybody's supporting you who's been along your way, and like I said, take every opportunity. You'll have so much fun. It's the pinnacle of, might be the pinnacle of your sport. It is for rowing. It's the highest achievement, and it's such an honor. And know that everybody is cheering for you and following you and happy and proud to have been in your journey. And it's such an amazing experience.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
On Instagram at Sydney R. Payne, and yeah, that's probably the best one.
Thank you again, Sydney Payne, for your interview, and best luck in your future as a Canada rowing Olympian. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Sydney Payne, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.